Yeah, from all accounts, it was a really small place.
What was it called?
French's Wine Bar, and it was at 84 or 86 Oxford Street in Darlinghurst.
Why is that so special?
Oh, it was just one of the, kind of intimate wine bars that had a lot of blues.
No, but history-wise, bands.
History-wise, you had people like the 4-Day Riders, the Mangrove Boogie Kings, I think Midnight Oil and Cold Chisel also.
Mangrove what?
Boogie Kings. They just played a lot of blues. But I do believe Midnight Oil and Cold Chisel first started playing at venues like French's Tavern when they first started out. So here it is here.
No more.
Nah, gone, like so many venues in Sydney.
Girls on the avenue, they're trying to get you in, strolling by with a rosebud smile.
Welcome back to my channel, thanks for watching. Today it's all about French's Tavern. From the mid-60s to the late 80s, French's was a live music venue on Oxford Street in Darlinghurst. Not far from Hyde Park, the area certainly has changed over the years, as you can see from some of the photos that I found. Now, pre-1965, French's was described as an old-style, 4-penny dark wine bar. Its nickname was Watery Les's Bar. I think the official name was Caldwell's Wine Bar. From about 1965 to 1972, Ray French was actively involved with French's. He had a strict policy of only using bands who didn't use amplification, but of course that soon changed. Terry Darmody says that the original Battersea Heroes were the first bluesy band to play at French's after the traditional jazz players that used to play there. Two very prominent figures that were responsible for the iconic French's venue were the Williams brothers, David and Paul. I was lucky enough to chat to David recently, and he cites the 4-Day Riders as one of the more popular bands that did have a residency at French's for quite a while. As well, there were other bands like the Mangrove Boogie Kings, and in fact I found a great photo of Johnny Canis from the Hitmen, who was invited on stage to sing Route 66 with them. Let's hear from David Williams, who was involved with French's for about 6 years.
I went down to French's, baby, looking for the alley cat.
How would you describe like the kind of ambience of the place? Because I've read that some people say that it was like really special. The audience and the band were kind of really close together, and there was just something special about the venue.
I became financially involved in 73, but I'd been a patron of the place probably for about 3-4 years before that.
Mm-hmm.
It used to be a hangout, like, because the art college was up the road at East Sydney Tech, and so there used to be a mixture of students. It was a bit of a trad jazz place in that sort of era prior to our involvement.
Yeah.
And so it was just a really good laid back where all sorts of cross sections of people would hang out.
Yeah, that was another thing I read, that a lot of different sort of tribes of people used to sort of frequent the place.
No, certainly, yes. And also, like, they'd have pianists there of an afternoon, like Graham Bell or Dick Hughes.
Also, I know the 4-Day Riders, they come up quite often when, during my research, and
Sure.
I think you mentioned they were like the backbone of the bar, and they were
Most
quite important. So I'm a big fan of the blues, actually, so it's good to see that, they were given a platform. And as well, Mangrove Boogie Kings, and
Yes.
were there lots of blues bands that played there?
Awesome bands, yeah, that's right. Doyle Wilson, big band. So 4-Day Riders for a period, probably from about 70 to about 72, they changed their name to Blue Spirit. I think they left there probably about 77, so I'd say they played over 300 nights there.
Wow, that's amazing.
And just the nicest guys possibly you could ever meet.
Yeah,
Ron and Jeff King are still playing.
I was going to say, I think I have seen them still on YouTube and playing around Sydney and places like that. So also, after you left French's, I believe you went up the road or something to
That's right.
East Side or something.
I went in with Greg and Neil, who used to have a venue down the road, Soul 33 it was
Soul
called.
33, yep.
That's right, where Renee Gayer had the house band down there and Leo Castro and all sorts of people like that.
Oh, wow, how amazing. Because I know that I was reading that your brother, when he kind of stayed on, he did keep the place alive, and but he changed the style of music. So a lot of those kind of more boogie rock bands weren't really asking to play there anymore, and they were more of a punk new wave type band.
Quite honestly, I would have stood a little bit clear of that. I would have stuck to I thought the blues rock thing was a good staple diet.
I know Peter Garrett has mentioned that he was kind of a regular even before he started playing at French's later on with Midnight Oil, and it was like the early days of Midnight Oil, and I just found that really fascinating because I guess there wouldn't have been a large crowd, and I can't even imagine Midnight Oil playing at a small venue like French's. Did you ever see Midnight Oil there?
Oh, yeah, they played when I was there.
Oh, they did? Oh, wow.
Yeah. Well, Rob Hurst, I'd met Rob Hurst, the drummer, first of all.
Okay.
In the 70s, late 70s, we got a gig every Tuesday night at French's Wine Bar in Oxford Street in Sydney. Tuesday night was the night that Paul, the owner, could never fill, so he put this young band on from the Northern Beaches and we started to work our way up.
I think they had a band called Farm or something.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And then, so that would have been 75, 76 or whatever. It wasn't long after we went downstairs.
Yes.
Which was just after, like, Richard Clapton hit the headlines with that, he had the number one hit there at the time, Girls on the Avenue.
Yeah, correct, yeah.
And certain venues and agencies were telling him that if he kept playing French's, that they would, boycott him.
Yeah, that's typical, isn't it?
And typical Richard, he told them what he thought of them.
Yeah, that's interesting. I'm seeing Richard Clapton actually in October. He's playing here on the Central Coast.
Yes. There's a song actually on his second album. He actually wrote about French's because when he was there, he would drink rosé.
Oh, right.
So he called the song Rose Wine Cafe.
Oh, wow.
And if you Google it, it's on YouTube and that.
How funny.
It's a very, very good description of, I think, what the feel of the place was all about in those days.
Oh, wow. I'll definitely have to look that up. That's awesome.
Yeah, there's a few other songs he does where he mentions it, but Rose Wine Cafe is definitely one to check out.
I read that you saw Bo Diddley once at French's.
Bo Diddley came up there.
Oh, wow.
He called into French's. The 4-Day Riders were playing downstairs. I was behind the bar downstairs. I was about to shoot upstairs. I saw this big dude at the top of the stairs whose presence couldn't be missed, and I had to take a double look, and I thought, that's Bo Diddley. He was checking out the 4-Day Riders.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Because what had happened, the promoter who brought him to Australia, like he always used local musicians, a lot cheaper than bringing guys in from overseas. And the band that they'd given Bo Diddley said, nah, he wasn't going to work with them. He wasn't happy with them. And so he was going to shoot straight back to America and pull out of the tour. And they said, well, what if we find you another band? And he said, no, you're just going to waste my time. And so they insisted that he go down to French's and listen to the 4-Day Riders.
Oh, wow.
And there and then on the spot, Bo approached them and asked them to be its backing band for the tour.
Oh, I love that. That's a great story.
Yeah, which the 4-Day Riders, at that time, they had Ian Winter from, he was in all sorts of bands, Daddy Cool, Carson.
Oh, Carson. Is that Broderick Smith Carson?
Yeah. Well, Ian Winter was one of the two guitarists and Sleepy Laurie was the other. They both played there.
Yep. Wow.
When Carson broke up, Carson were one of my favourite ever bands. And
They
broke up.
Was that before or after the Dingoes? I think that was after.
Oh, before the Dingoes.
Oh, before, yeah. Oh, wow.
No, Dingoes, or Drongos as they call themselves. But, that was their term.
Yeah, funny.
They used to hang out at French's a lot, because Rod did national service just up the road from there at Moore Park.
Yes.
Then when the Carson broke up, Ian Winter and Greg Laurie, they flew up to Sydney and approached me. They said, well, Carson have just broken up. We'd like to put a band in here. And, wow, just amazing. And this was Greg.
Edwin Garland was a regular punter of French's. He's a musician and says that it was an iconic venue that was the place where Midnight Oil got its inner city audience. Edwin actually played some of his first gigs there with his band Waxworks, and he does mention that because of the lack of PA and equipment, lights, it sort of created financial difficulties because what money the band did get kind of went into, sort of hiring the venue and all that. So bands would sort of play there and just move on to other venues. He did say that Paul Williams had a feel that, the city was changing and kind of about 1978, people weren't flocking to those sort of blues venues anymore because a lot of new wave and punk music was coming out. In fact, the popular radio Birdman actually did play French's twice, but according to David, because of some trouble, they weren't really asked again. I talked to David about Peter Garrett, and Peter recalls French's as a minuscule, dingy basement. He said it was an in-place to kind of play, and Midnight Oil were building a big following. In fact, he said it was a venue where his mum sort of came and saw one of their first shows. As well, Rob Hurst talks about French's, as well as Richard Clapton, and he said that French's kind of had become established as this premier venue for rock and blues music. And he said every night it was packed to the rafters with drunken music lovers. He was having the time of his life, and it was at French's where maybe his best-known song came to life, The Best Years of Our Lives. And you can kind of read all about that in Richard's book. An important issue that I wanted to sort of bring up was that David never really went through the agencies, and he said it was nearly 100% done direct when booking, and it was his brother Paul that actually started to change it into more of a restaurant rather than a wine bar. But in saying that, it was obviously still a live music venue, and I think the licensing laws allowed the bar to stay open until about 11. French's was home to lots and lots of wonderful blues bands, and as well, it was a venue that gave early exposure to some of Australia's most popular and enduring acts. Now, you can find a list of all the bands that played at French's on the French's website, frenchestavern.com. There's over 200 of them, and I've tried to include, various, bands such as Toy Love, Thought Criminals, Palaco Brothers, No More Bandicoots, who apparently played there nude, Secret, The Particles, of course the 4-Day Riders, Arnhem, New Words, The Layabouts, Feed Time, Voight, the Scientists played there, The Clones, Mass Appeal, they apparently had their first gig there, Idiot Savant, Midnight Oil, Treble Clefs, Full Frontal, La Femme, Waxworks, The Civilians, XL Caprice, Celibate Rifles, and many, many more. Again, just check out that website. And speaking of that, Ricky Onsman, he's a bloke that's really kept the legacy of French's alive with his website, frenchestavern.com, as well as a Facebook group, I Might Have Drunk at French's. Check it out. Rod Willis of Cold Chisel sort of fame said it was a birthday party for one of Mangrove Boogie Kings, where he first met Phil and Don from Cold Chisel in 1977, which led to his 32-year association with them. As well, David Sinclair from Warner's, apparently he first saw Cold Chisel at French's in 1977, and he said the vibe was really strong and they had a really good live following by that point. Jimmy Barnes, in his storybook Working Class Man, he recalls that they'd been playing to crowds, mostly out in the suburbs, and the band didn't really feel like Oxford Street, was kind of their scene in regards to the audience, as far as he reckons that the punks didn't like them because they were too wild for them. But he does say that they made good friends there, and he said that Midnight Oil were the next band after Cold Chisel to play at French's, and apparently they became friends immediately. Broderick Smith, rest his soul, from the book Man Out of Time, he remembers French's as a really longish, narrow room. And in the late 60s, Taylor Square was more a student hangout, and he said that the whole area tended to cater more for hippies and bikers, and the gay scene hadn't really started there in any big way yet. And he mentions the 4-Day Riders and sitting in with those blokes at the tavern. Chris Murphy said that he laughs when he hears people saying it's not like the old days when you had all the pubs. He reckons that when he found Cold Chisel playing for $60 at French's, that he had to, and others, go out and create those environments, like, asking publicans if they could make a stage and talking to registered clubs about having rock nights. And that's Chris Murphy from the In Excess, Chris Murphy. So, Electric Pandas, they weren't your typical French's band, but they did play at French's and recorded the video for their 84 hit Big Girls downstairs. And what's notable about the video is that it shows the stage and the room and the downstairs route to get to it really clearly. So, and also the audience apparently largely comprises actual French's regulars who were roped in for the task apparently, and some of the staff, I think. Now, Toby Yates, in this book, you can read all about it, and the character Arthur, who describes French's as painted black, grungy, open till 3 in the morning. You know, there was a bar downstairs, a band room in a dungeon below with a steep flight of stairs. And he said that when there was nowhere else to go, there was always French's to find shelter from the stormy city with music, a drink, and punks to keep you company. So, yeah, I'll show you the artwork that I bought, and I'll also show you a picture of you know, the French's kind of scene that Toby talks about. But you can read all about that in this fabulous book. I really recommend it. It's just awesome. Toby was really there in the thick of it, and he describes Ray the bouncer. You know, he remembers the jukebox that was up at French's, and you can see it all in the artwork too, so I'll show you that really soon. This is the artwork created by Toby Yates, and I just wanted to kind of show you what it looks like. Some fantastic, you know, pictures of, you know, the artwork that just really shows what French's was like, trying to capture the atmosphere and just the iconic venue that it was. Here he's got Cold Chisel, and his version, his interpretation of the whole venue and the people, what it looked like, what it might have sounded like. Yeah, so I love it. Now, first gigs for people in the industry were at French's. People like, you know, Paul Christie from Mondo Rock, Keith Claringbold, Ed Garland. I think Mass Appeal had their first gig there. Tall Tales and True had their one and only gig at French's. Bob Short from Filth and Urban Gorillas, he has memories of the cider and Cinzano smell that was kind of, you know, permeating everywhere. Of course, Uncle Ray, he was the bouncer, Uncle Ray in his chair. His nephew actually informed the group that Ray did pass away of a respiratory illness, so God rest his soul. Graham from the All-Nighters and the Johnnies, he has a memory where apparently skinheads kicked the crap out of the toilet bowl one night, and I think there might have been, you know, other nights like that. French's was called French Connections for about 6 weeks in 85, and I think that was kind of, you know, towards the end. Look, yeah, I also wanted to show you a review of Big Swifty, so I will put it up, but you can see when Big Swifty were playing at French's before they became the Radiators, and God love them, they're still playing now 40 odd years later. So once upon a time, Oxford Street was just, you know, full of bars, nightclubs and fashion retail. So years of lockdown and lockouts have probably seen about a third of the shop fronts left abandoned, that between that Taylor Square and Hyde Park. So look, whatever happened to French's, progress, real estate, money, yeah, I guess there is, you know, projects in place. So yeah, it's sort of become what a lot of venues in Sydney have become, whether they've knocked them down or just, you know, repurposed them. That's what happened to French's.
Construction starting today on Oxford and Foley, a 3-block $200 million development set to feature more than 9,000 square metres of office space, 30 storefronts, a boutique hotel and a string of restaurants, bars and cafes.
The changes coming to Oxford Street are all part of a master plan to rejuvenate and revitalise the city, from the streets all the way to the skyline.
We want it to revive and become a great...
Now, I also wanted to mention that if anybody does have, you know, other stories, I know that Richard Clapton actually wrote Rose Wine Cafe, which was the flip side of Girls on the Avenue, and that was apparently written about French's. As well, there was Jupiter Jazz. Apparently there was a long lost tape of Jupiter, and they were a great 70s band apparently, and they were playing at French's. And I think you can actually see that sort of footage on YouTube now. As well, there's a guy called James Griffin. He's got this CD called Redfern Nights, and the song is Where's the Party? It's a great song about Frenchers. Lots of, not lots, but there's a few videos on YouTube. Feed Time, they sing Paint It Black, which was recorded live at French's about 1985. There's a really good video called Mangrove Boogie Kings live at French's. The 4 Day Riders, they recorded their album live at French's. I think they recorded it in the studio, but the crowd was from French's. Carson, I think members of Carson played there. Sweet Poison have got a few videos that they recorded at French's. And look, if there's anything else that maybe I've overlooked, please let me know in the comments. And don't forget to hit like and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I hope you have enjoyed this vlog. Be sure to, subscribe so that you can get notifications of my future vlogs, of which I'll be doing many, many more. Thanks.
Crazy babes can play tricks with your mind. I had something to say, but forgot my lines. Looking for someone